Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, October 30th, 2020. I am Dave Biddle. I am very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker for his usual Friday visit. I love that your usual Friday visit now means the day before an Ohio State football game, Buckeyes and Nittany Lions tomorrow night in Happy Valley. We will get to all of that. But let's start with this recruiting cornucopia that the Buckeyes have experienced this week. I mean, they haven't gotten any commitments, but the crystal balls are rolling in for some of the top 2022 recruits in the country, young men that are in their junior year of high school right now. Let's start with Quinn Ewers, number one player in the country, number one quarterback, number one everything out of Texas. He is decommitted from the Longhorns, and all of the crystal balls are now pointing toward Ohio State. So great news there, J-Book.
Yeah, and it's amazing because if you look at his recruitment there, Ohio State was one of the early teams to offer him, but he initially wanted to stay home because he grew up a Texas fan, and for this kid to commit in August and still flip or looking to flip it, I think it speaks volumes about how recruits feel about Tom Herman in the Texas program right now. That is a back-breaking decommitment. That I wouldn't say a 16, 17-year-old will ultimately decide the fate of a coach, but that is not going to sit well with the Texas Boosters, considering how important recruiting is in the state of Texas and how much they value the Longhorn program. This kid, a lot of people think he's a generational talent. If you look at his rankings, 24/7 Composite has him as a 99.94 rating, which is unheard of. I think Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields were probably the two other highest quarterbacks when it comes to rating. And this kid has a cannon of an arm. He can make every throw. And people believe he's so good right now that he is an upgrade to what Ohio State has on the roster and bringing in. And if you look at Ohio State's quarterback room right now, with Jack Miller and CJ Stroud, those are two outstanding prospects. And you look at the kid that's coming in for 2021, and they believe he's an even better prospect than he is, obviously being the number one overall player. So if the crystal balls are true and he does flip to Ohio State, you're going to see a bevy of high-end 2020 recruits following his path.
The two other five stars that have been crystal ball to Ohio State, Domani Jackson, a number one corner in the country in the 2022 class out of Santa Ana, California, Modern Day High School. And then again, in the state of Texas, Caleb Burton, five-star wide receiver in the state of Texas, also being crystal ball to the Buckeyes. Your thoughts on Jackson and Burton?
Yeah, just seeing, I know on Wednesday night, there was a lot of buzz because Domani Jackson added Ohio State to his Instagram profile, so that really steered things up. But he is a guy that Ohio State has been in the thick of things for a very long time. A lot of people believe it's a three-horse race with Ohio State, Michigan, and USC. There's supposedly a visit coming up to Michigan in the next month or so, where he's supposed to visit there for the Wisconsin game. And if you come that far to Michigan, I'm sure he'll make a little stop to Ohio State, but you have to feel really good where things are at with him. I know Steve Wilform hopped on the Bucknuts Morning 5, and he believes that Ohio State is way out in front in this. And you're talking about, once again, another top 5 national prospect. His overall rating on 24/7 Composite is a 99.90. So you're talking about the best of the best from all across the country in major recruiting hotbeds, looking like they're going to end up at Ohio State.
Now, I haven't heard this said about Quinn Ewers, but some of the other guys, I've heard fans wonder, okay, wait a minute. Are they trying to have a little fun here? You know, yeah, they like Ohio State, but maybe are they trying to not really troll Ohio State, but maybe get the fan base a little riled up? Do you think there's anything to that maybe some of these kids that are getting all of a sudden these crystal balls flying Ohio State's way, that maybe people are jumping the gun a little bit? Maybe these kids are just having a little bit of fun.
I mean, I think Ohio State fans should be somewhat cautious. You're still dealing with teenagers here. Things could change in a heartbeat. If you look at what happened On Thursday, Zach Rice, 5-star offensive tackle, he started chiming in, throwing up the Ohio State O on his Twitter, and that was retweeted by Mark Pantoni. So you're seeing a lot of high-end prospects. And I would tell Ohio State fans this. Look, these guys may not be committing this week or in this month, but what you see is Ohio State is in their mouth. And the positive vibe that you're getting, it attracts other recruits. It doesn't mean that these guys will all automatically commit to Ohio State, in the next couple of weeks. But once you start getting the ball rolling and a lot of these guys start talking to each other, that's nothing but positive. That's nothing to be negative about. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans were already on high alert because the current 2020 commits, 2022 commits, were saying that there's going to be some booms happening pretty soon, and then all of a sudden you start seeing smoke coming from the Texas board, where they were saying that they believe Ewers is going to decommit and flip to Ohio State before it happened, and then a day later it happened. So everybody was like, "Whoa." Things are really moving in the right direction for Ohio State. So I would say, tread cautiously because you're dealing with teenagers, but also get excited for the simple fact that the elite of the elite are all looking at Ohio State. And worst case scenario, you grab 70-80% of the guys that you're going after that are the elite of the elite, and pretty much that's going to be better than anyone else in the country, maybe outside of Alabama. But if you look at these high-end star power guys, if they're going to do the whole situation where they want to play together, then why not at Ohio State?
Switching gears from recruiting, let's get into Buckeyes at Nittany Lions tomorrow night in Happy Valley. Buckeyes favored by 13 at last check. I have this one 38-23 Ohio State. So I have the Buckeyes just barely covering the spread. And, part of me feels like Ohio State's just going to take it to them. But also Penn State, especially losing to Indiana, Penn State viewing Ohio State as their number one rival. I feel like, and even though there's going to be no whiteout, which helps Ohio State, it's still – you'd still rather play the game at home than on the road. So it's going to be maybe a little closer than I think I initially was going to predict. So I'm going to go with 38-23 Buckeyes. I think, Jay Book, that the Buckeyes are going to control this game and not quite blow out the Nittany Lions. What's your prediction for the final score, and how do you think this one's going to play out?
I have Ohio State winning 42-20. And the reason I say this, Dave, and I give you several points. If you take what Urban Meyer said, he said without the crowd, without the whiteout at night, you're looking at a 7 to 10 point difference based off the atmosphere. And then secondly, you look at what Penn State is missing. They're missing a lot of skill position players. And they're down to their third string running back. They lost Noah Cain last week. And if you watch that Indiana game, they did not look athletic at all for a top 10 team. I was not impressed with Penn State. Yes, they outgained Indiana as far as pretty much doubling up in yards and stuff, but I did not like what I saw there. And to me, in order to really run with Ohio State, you got to have the horses across the board. And I just don't think Penn State has them. Their tight end is an All-American. He is an absolute beast. He's going to be an early NFL draft pick, but you're not going to hang with Ohio State just throwing to the tight end there. I just don't think they have the horses across the board to run with Ohio State. And the key to that is Ohio State has to be able to establish the run. If they can find some semblance of balance without Justin Fields being the lead carrier as far as yards, then I think Ohio State will definitely run away with this. And having it in a sterile environment where there's no fans there, which creates a ruckus atmosphere, what you're looking at is talent versus talent, pound for pound. And I look at Ohio State across the board. They're a much better football team than Penn State. This will be a test. This will be the best defense that Ohio State will see probably until Michigan. So this is going to be a heck of a test early on. I do expect Penn State to clean up a lot of their issues. But what's the old saying in football? You get better probably the most during the season from the first game to the second game. And I expect that from Penn State, but I also expect that from Ohio State. You're looking at an Ohio State team that still put up 52 points, and I felt like they left a lot to be desired on the field. I don't think they played nearly as well as they could, and they'll tell you that. Ryan, they'll tell you that as long as Ohio State protects the football, I definitely think Ohio State covers the spread here.
We'll find out later today what the Buckeyes are going to say about Chris Olave on their status report. They put out it's really a participation report, and all they say is they have guys listed that are unavailable and guys that are game time decisions. And if you're not listed on the participation report, that's a good thing. That means you're going to participate. So we'll see if Olave is a game time decision. We'll see if he's unavailable or not on there. But some good news here. Ryan Day was asked about it yesterday, about Chris Olave's status. And it was funny, J-Book. Ryan Day prefaced it with, well, we put out our status report on Friday, and, so we don't really get into too much of that. But then he followed it up with, but Chris has had a really strong, good week of practice. Now, that doesn't mean that he's had a strong, good week of practice and he's for sure cleared. We don't know that for sure, but reading between the lines, it sure sounds good. We'll find out more today. But if I had to guess, I think Chris Olave is going to play tomorrow night. What do you think?
I absolutely think he's going to play. And if you look at Garrett Wilson's comments early in the week, he kind of let it out the bag where he said Chris Olave told him he is absolutely playing in his game. So once I heard that, the thought of Olave not playing didn't even cross my mind for this week. And the fact that he's also practicing this week and had a pretty good week tells me he will be on the field. He's a guy that knows that the clock is running out to be able to play at Ohio State. You want him to be healthy. You don't want Ohio State to ever rush a kid back on the field. But if he's feeling good and he feels like that he can play in a primetime showcase game, he's going to be out there. So I truly believe he will be out there on the field having an excellent game.
And last thing, switching gears away from Ohio State for a minute, Nebraska-Wisconsin was canceled due to 6 Wisconsin players and 6 staff members, including head coach Paul Chryst, coming down with COVID-19. So Nebraska-Wisconsin canceled. What's interesting is Nebraska tried to get a game with another team. As you know, UT Chattanooga, you know more about this than I do. We were talking before we started recording. Tell the listeners about this, how Nebraska thought they were still going to get a replacement game on Saturday, but the Big Ten shot it down.
Yeah, I've been following this story all week, and it's very unfortunate for Nebraska. I truly believe that the Big Ten at this point is blatantly bullying Nebraska. If this was anyone else, if Nebraska was on the other end where Wisconsin is at, they would have made them play the game. And to me, in my mind, this should be a forfeit. And the reason I say that is Wisconsin is doing this because they don't want to have a loss on their schedule. They do not want to go to Lincoln with their 4th string quarterback and without Paul Chryst. So they're canceling the game and saying that they're putting their program on pause. The problem that I have with that is they haven't met the Big Ten threshold to even cancel. So you have 79 scholarship players that are ready to go, and you're going to cancel. Whereas in the Big 12, SEC, and the Pac-12, you have to get all the way down to 53 players before they even deem the game to be canceled. So you're looking at 79 players that are ready to go, but because their quarterback room got wiped out for 3 weeks, they want to cancel the game. And that was all Barry Alvarez doing there. And if it was anyone else, if it was Nebraska or Purdue or Maryland, they're going to roll them out there and tell them to take their butt whooping. You look at Purdue. Purdue was on prime time. Six or 7 of their starters are out, including the kickers, the punters, the whole right side of their offensive line, some defensive guys. Did they cry about it? Did they want to shut it down? Absolutely not. They went out there and they fought Michigan. They lost, and it showed that they were not up to speed with their guys missing. And it's not fair to Nebraska to make them have to suffer because of Wisconsin. The Big Ten absolutely should allow Nebraska to schedule a game. And the people argument is, well, you can't have someone playing teams that don't meet the Big Ten standards. Well, Nebraska clearly outlined in their statement on Thursday that they vetted different programs and teams, and part of the vetting process was to make sure that those teams had a far more strict guidelines when it came to testing than the actual Big Ten, and they still denied them. They still denied them the chance to play football, and to me, that is the Big Ten being petty because they feel like Nebraska was the one that really got the ball rolling to play with the lawsuits. And Nebraska initially was speaking out against the Big Ten. They gave Nebraska the hardest schedule in the Big Ten to start off, playing Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State in the first 4 weeks. So I truly believe that Nebraska has something to complain about here. And I think it sets a dangerous precedence to allow Wisconsin to do that, because what happens if we're down in week 6 and Ohio State is playing someone who's completely out of it? It's just, and that team wants to opt out, even though they haven't met the requirements for the game to even be canceled. If you haven't met the Big Ten strict protocols to even cancel, then the game should be played. And if you want to opt out, that's fine. You can opt out, but that should be an automatic forfeit, and the win should go to Nebraska.
Great knowledge, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, Jay Book, and thank you to all listeners out there for tuning into the show. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow, Bucknutters.